This is the Karen Mitches podcast. I'm talking to Justin Bishop, Toronto area comic from Scarborough. You probably know him from the Dark Matter podcast that he hosts.
I wouldn't say I'm the host. I'm a part of it.
A part of it.
Yeah, Denzel Ray is the host.
And how did you become part of it?
We're just like doing the open mic circuit, and Denzel had this idea of, because me, Denzel, Callan, and Nathan just hang out and always just it's always a laugh when we talk about like crazy random things. So Denzel was saying like he one type of podcast with like a bunch of like black oriented podcasts, which like a bunch of black comedians come together and just have their own thing going for them. And so far it's going great.
Nice. I've been watching your clips.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get upset when people only watch the clips?
I wouldn't say upset, but it's very apparent that like people aren't watching. Like I wouldn't say that people are watching, but the most of the buzz comes from the clips.
Yeah, it's exciting, and the clips tend to be the thing that you end up talking about with your friends, right?
100%. That's where we get like the notoriety from.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you think in a person makes you think, I want to podcast with this guy?
I think the most important thing is like chemistry. Like when I can just like talk to Denzel and then it'll be funny like regardless. Doesn't matter. Like we have like chemistry. I can just make a joke and he replies and he'll have a joke for me. I laugh. He laughs. Because I did a podcast with other comedians and we did not have that chemistry whatsoever. It felt very forced. Like when we podcasting, I'm like, oh, it's over. Like, oh, you have to end. I'm like, I didn't even take in time.
Yeah.
But I've been on other podcasts where I'm like, when is this going to be over?
So I feel like everyone could podcast with Callan.
Oh, 100%. That man is a master of talking. I learned from him, man. I wish like his skill is just like be able to just like talk. It's truly a skill, and I'm in awe of it every time. For
sure. Do you think there's also something with just you can't have all? If you had 4 Callans, that wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah, I think we have a good like mesh, like a good blend on the like me and Denzel are very like logical, slow. I think he's a great leader for the show. Like he like mediates because I'm quite chaotic, and me and Nathan are chaotic, and then Callan's like a good talker. So I'll like rile up Nathan, and then and then Callan has like a speech about like what we're talking about, and then Denzel will just bring us all in.
Is Nathan easy to rile up?
Extremely. It's like a bunny could rile up Nathan.
And I feel like that works almost like he almost does it to himself in his stand-up. Mm-hmm. Like he kind of gets onto things that set him off.
Yeah. But the funniest thing is he's not aware of that. Like it's not on purpose. I want him to become aware of it so he can use it. But it's like it's just too easy to rile him up.
He needs to tone it down.
Not like he needs to tone it down. He needs to be. I think it's more so awareness, because I feel like he's just unaware of it.
I want to say comedy's the weirdest group of people because there's almost an abundance of awareness and then at the same time a lack of it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, but the thing is, the lack of awareness makes him funny. So I can't am I taking away his funniness by making him more aware? I don't know. I just don't know.
I think a lot of my comedy comes from things I've learned to be aware of that I wasn't always aware of. So sometimes I do it in the voice of me when I wasn't aware of things. So the audience knows what I'm talking about from that outside perspective. And I'm like kind of like playing the idiot.
Okay, yeah. So
that it takes awareness and then you're sort of doing who you were before you got it.
I think I have like same type of like style too, where it's like I was unaware of things and I became aware of it, and then I think I became too aware. I'm very observant.
Do you think being a comedian is driving you insane because you're kind of overthinking things?
I think I already was overthinking things, and the comedy helps me channel it.
Oh, okay.
So like I was always an overthinker. It's not like comedy made me into that, but I can like use my overthinking as a form of like maybe that helps you get it out.
When you were growing up, do you think what you were predominantly as a kid was an overthinker, or like a silly kid or a funny kid?
I went through like phases. I think when I was like elementary school, I was not as observant. I was just very like silly. It's like I just wanted to have fun. I didn't care about like anything at all. I was like, the whole goal was to have fun. But then I realized that like my fun can like hurt other people's feelings.
Okay.
So I have to like have awareness of that. But it's like I still want to have fun, and it's like push pull, and then I think I like stopped myself from having like fun just to like be like in order, not as chaotic. And then comedy helps me like balance those two. It's like you need order to be chaotic.
Yes. So, okay, that resonates with me because I think I had a similar trajectory, but then I'm hearing, was there like a little bit of bullying there in the earlier?
Yeah, but I think I was a bully, but I didn't realize I wasn't like I'm taking out my energy. It wasn't like intent. I was like, this is funny. I thought it was like just funny.
So you weren't like shoving a kid down in the
God,
sandbox
no.
and laughing at him, but you would be.
I'd like make lines and like have the whole class laugh. I like embarrass people.
Okay.
Like, or I was like, someone had a line, like somebody farted in class, and I'm always like, that's Eric at the gas station, and everyone laughs, and then I'm like, I feel great, but it's like he doesn't. In that moment, as a kid, you feel terrible, and that I would have to experience those same moments where like I would say something and someone had the line for me, and the whole class laughs, and I'm like, oh, and that's what it feels like.
Okay. So then you're kind of figuring that out, like middle school, kind of, and you transition to being maybe then overthinking a little.
I overthought in high school. Cause like I was like, oh, your image means so much. I didn't want to be like bullied. I didn't want to be in any drama. So I was like very to myself, to like my own friend group, very much so.
I remember being a really giggly kid, and I was nervous about high school. And my friend's older brother was telling us the prevalence of eating disorders, and he said something like, you know, there's 7 of you, so 2 of you are going to have an eating disorder. And I was like, Jonathan, is it going to be me? And he's like, no, Karen, you're going to giggle your way through high school. And he was almost right. But then there was like a moment in high school where like a switch flipped, and then I became like an overthinker. But it was more just like around trying to be logical and trying to do everything the right way.
That's why I fall in line with that a lot.
And then that's like the worst line.
Yeah, it's not a good line at all, because there is no right way. Like I feel like we want to assume that there's a moral good and bad, but like there truly is no like right way to do things.
And then do you find too, it's like you make a mistake in life, so you try to go, well, I don't want to make that mistake again. So you're like, I'll never do this.
Yeah.
And you go too far.
Way too far. Overcorrect to like the 10th degree.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, this is like, I don't have to go back to it. Or it's like, if I go back, I go back to that same spot. Like I'm doing like the borderline quote unquote bad thing or whatever, how I see it.
So now I more say, like I sort of allow that things are going to go wrong, and like I'm not going to punish myself over it, but I'll be like, well, I'm glad I tried it. I'm glad I took the chance. And that just sometimes there isn't a lesson. Sometimes things just don't go well.
Oh, I'm still on the sense of like everything's a lesson, but I'm more so at ease with like things happening.
And you're 26 at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you think your focus is right now?
Trying to have experiences, be more open to experiences, not to be as closed off. So cause I feel like if you're more open, more things happen for you. So if you're very closed off, you're very limited. I want to lessen my limits.
Yeah. Nothing new will happen.
Yeah.
If you don't do new stuff.
Exactly.
And you're doing a lot of comedy lately. I feel like I see you out a lot.
Yeah, I try to. But also like open mics are like very treacherous for your soul.
How so?
Because like you're just there at a mic for like sometimes 3-4 hours, just like sitting there watching comedy, and sometimes it's not good comedy. Sometimes it's like some people don't know what they're doing, and they're just like, sometimes people are crazy and like I'm doing comedy. It's like you're just speaking thoughts, but that's also what the comedy is. It's like it's hard to watch sometimes, but I truly love watching comedy when it's like people are putting like thoughts into their jokes, but when people are just like spewing their consciousness, I'm like, we need help.
It's messy. It's a messy thing to watch. Like I think when I first showed up, there were some people that I just thought, this person like is really not well and they don't know how to do comedy. But then I would see them after they'd worked their bit out a bit and it would be really good.
Yeah.
And I was floored because there were people I really didn't think were an actual comic. I thought they were a crazy person who showed up places.
That's why I'm trying to like be less judgmental, because it's like I'll be at Mike's, I'm like, what do you guys, this guy's a comedian, and I go to a show, I'm like, he's killing. I'm like, I don't understand what's going on here, but it makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of things just don't work until they're refined.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to watch this sloppy making of it and then see that refined product. That's
why I truly like comedy. That's why I feel as though when I go to a mic, I'm very like, I don't want to say this and that. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to like push, like steer people the wrong way. But I feel like that's also restricting me from being a better comedian. I think I should lose my mind more on stage.
Yeah. Yeah. I intentionally wrote some bits that allowed me to be more performative and bigger, because a lot of my stuff is just, it's observational or it's a story from my life. So it's just me going on. It's not much different than this vibe. And so I wrote some absurdist stuff. I talked about McDonald's. I talked about like McDonald's land, like Grimace and stuff. I have a very political one where I talk about how we should blot out the sun, just so I could have a reason to be really animated and absurd on stage.
I'm like right now I'm in the middle of like trying to like create a new style, because I have like a very, well, people tell me I'm very deadpan and very like serious and like still, but like I have a very silly side to me, but I just don't know how to show that on stage yet. So I'm trying to like merge that, where it's like I'm more animated, more silly, more playful on stage.
I feel like I want to see almost everybody that we do comedy with do like the silliest version of themselves.
I love silly jokes. They're so fun to do, so fun to be around.
But it's hard to, like, when you're trying to get things done, it's so hard to stay near silliness and just like remember to have that.
Because I have this bit that I want to do, I'm supposed to go like this and that. That's not silly.
Yeah. Or like if you're, I don't know, I want to deal with hecklers. And when I say heckler, I hate that word because it makes it sound like somebody is trying to mess with you. And I feel like a lot of hecklers are just, they're being inappropriate, but they're just sort of trying to get into the show. Or they're just trying to chat with you. And I want to have a silly way of interacting with them, but it's almost impossible for me because I'm trying to get back to my set. So if I'm doing something, it's very hard for me to just be like, oh, I'll just break from this thing I'm trying to do and then be silly. Yeah,
and go back to, okay, I feel like, I think the connotation of hecklers, like, they're, like, ruining the show. Like, someone said, like, yeah, fuck you. It's very negative. But now, I feel like, especially in Toronto, like, audiences, they don't know how to be at a live show. I feel like they just randomly talk and they just say something. I'm just like, you have to listen. I'll say a question and they'll answer. I'm like, I'm going to answer it myself in the joke. And that's to me, that's not heckling. They're just like, I guess they're engaged.
But it's maybe somebody who's not used to the stand-up format. So you're going like, what's the deal with? And then they answer. And you're like, no, I'm going to answer that. That's
how I feel. To me, that's like very playful. I was like, oh, you almost had me. I try to go along with it. But like, it's hard for me to go back to like what I was saying. Sometimes it's like, you get so derailed from that. Like, you're so in that zone and then they say something and like, people get mad. I understand it, but to me, it's like, you shouldn't get mad at that. Like, some people get mad when people like just talk and like they're in the flow and like they get disrupted, so like they take out their anger on that person.
Yeah, and it's weird because it's really not personal. I don't think I've ever seen a heckler who was mad at the comic or trying to
really?
ruin their.
I have.
Yeah.
Oh, I definitely have seen.
Can you tell me?
Like, I think it's more so like people don't like certain topics. So like if you talk about a certain like topic that's sensitive to someone, they're like, they shut it down. They're like, this is not funny at all. They're like, they won't let you go through with the joke.
Have you ever had someone try to shut you down?
No, because I'm too scared to like. I know there's certain topics where I'm like, even if I tried, the people are not gonna let me do it. So I try to stay away. But I'm trying to like break out of that. So I have a like new religion joke I'm trying to work on.
Okay.
But like, yeah.
Is it a little bit anti-religion?
No, it's like more so pro-religion.
Okay.
Like,
and I guess that's the thing is there's always
people like
the 2 ways your joke could offend or 5 ways it could offend someone.
So yeah, that's why I'm like, there's certain topics that I feel like I just can't say or I can't approach it, but I want to get rid of that mindset. Like, I have to just appear as a bigot to get these bits off, apparently.
Yeah. So you're just gonna go out there and tell everyone they need to listen to Jesus.
Basically, basically, that's like the bit. The bit's like, yeah, I think Jesus was onto something. Like, like, yeah, love that neighbor as thyself. That's a good advice. Like Buddha's like, don't be attached to stuff. Like, yeah, attachment, like that's how you get hurt. That makes sense. Like stuff like that. But I don't have to like. The joke goes on like, people are like, yeah, don't be gay. It's anti-religious. Like, where did that come from? I don't think Jesus said that. Like, yeah. Clearly some guy who did not like homosexuality was like, God told me. So
someone took his very great teaching and then just put in some horrific footnotes.
Exactly. They edited it. Like the Bible. Just like, put this in there. That's like the whole premise of it. Because I'm like, now I'm like very spiritual. I'm like very spiritual. And that's like, I won't say I'm anti-religion, but I'm saying I'm not religious. I don't have nothing to follow. I'm not against you if you follow something, but I feel like I like to be free and like explore all religions and see like what's the main root of like, there's a lot of like commonalities in every religion. So I'm like, whatever that commonality is, I want to follow that.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely like everyone. And I think one of the most off-putting things for me about religion was the idea like that there was supposed to be one. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, then I know this is fake.
Yeah. This is all advertising.
It's gotta be all of them or none of them. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe not. I don't think Scientology.
No. That's not a religion. That's a cult. 100% it's a cult.
You don't think L. Ron Hubbard had any useful teachings?
Well, what are the Scientology teachings? I have no clue.
Yeah.
Like, what are they?
The thing I got out of it, yeah, I don't even want to mention it now that I think about it.
What's like their go-to line? Do they have commandments? Do they have like a rule
I think
book?
they have some kind of, I think you level up.
That's crazy.
But that's why I don't want to talk about it, because I shouldn't say what I think it is, because I literally don't know.
But now that I hear about that leveling up, it's just like I'm like into learning about consciousness and what that is, and like there's like higher consciousness and like lower consciousness. But like when you get into that, like when you talk about leveling up, we just like, start to talk down on people. It's like, I'm on this higher level, so like you're down there. But it's like it should be like different. But people like to be better than other people, so
yeah.
It's also like funny to be better than people. Like to say, yeah, I'm better than you. It's like, I'm not, but it's just fun to say.
And in a culture where there's different statuses, you would hope that your faith community was a place where people come together everyone at the same level.
Yeah, why would I be in a religion if like I'm at the bottom tier? I'd rather not be in it. What's your background?
Ethnically? Mm-hmm. It's Greek on my dad's side, and then my mom is Serbian and Croatian.
Serbian and Croatian. Like, so, what would are your family religious?
So it's weird. Okay, so because of the Serbian Croatian connection, they have a religious conflict. So they are traditionally, one is Roman Catholic and one's Orthodox. Mm-hmm. But my grandparents took on a Protestant religion to avoid that. So my mom grew up in the United Church of Canada, and then my dad grew up in the Greek Orthodox Church. But because he doesn't like going to church, the kids in my family grew up going to my mom's church, the United, which is like the easiest church to be part of.
Why? How so?
The teaching is like, just be a good person. They're not really like pushing any. Mm-hmm. Don't do this, don't do that. I think it was when I was in high school, the gay marriage debate was heating up, and there were people within the United Church who were very pro-gay marriage. So they actually got gay marriage before the country had it. It was, yeah, so it's a hard church to rebel against.
Okay, yeah. As church should be. I feel like you shouldn't be able to rebel against church.
Yeah, I feel like if you had to leave your church because it was too many rules, but you still want to go to church, you can go to church with my mom.
Mm-hmm. So you would go like every Sunday? Was that like a thing you guys would do?
We were every Sunday churchgoers at a time when everyone seemed to have stopped going to church. So I always thought we were very religious, but then it was weird because it's a
very free
liberal religion. So
what's going to church like in that sense? It's like, be a good person. Amen. Like, what was that like?
It's just, I think like the service is just a story, like a motivational story from the Bible, but it's not really rule based. It's more reminding you to be compassionate or to give others a chance. And then
to me, that just sounds like spirituality.
Yeah.
Cool. Sounds nice. A little community where it's like, yeah, be nice to people. That's a reminder. And I think it's funny is like that, like we don't recognize that humans do need that reminder. Like we need to remember to be nice to people.
Yes. And I think the thing that we forget is whatever's already there, you think it's there permanently. So if there's people who are promoting positivity and charity, you think they're annoying, right? Yeah. And you don't realize if they weren't around, there would be less positivity and less people being charitable.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, but those guys are annoying. They're
like everyone hates do-gooders, right?
Yeah. Because I feel as though like we know this already, but some people really do need to be told, like, remember to do good.
Well, that's, I think, too, why some of the most religious people are so frustrating, because sometimes they're people who didn't know things, obviously, so they needed their faith to tell them not to exploit others. Yeah. And then they're trying to teach you things, and you're like, dude, I already knew that.
Yeah. Yeah, they're too bought into it. Like, yeah, this helped me. And it's like, oh, okay, you needed that.
So you guys didn't go to church growing up?
My grandma's very religious. She goes to church all the time. My cousin goes to Catholic church, but my mom was like, we're not. He doesn't need to do all that. Like he let him have his own thoughts. So I was christened, but I went to public school.
So what's your grandma's church?
Catholic. I don't know, like Protestant, Orthodox. I have no clue about any of that stuff.
Your background's Trinidad, Tobago?
Yeah.
And is that mostly Catholic?
Yeah.
Is most of the Caribbean Catholic?
The big church folk.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's Protestant, Roman. I have no clue.
Okay. Just church.
Yeah, that's me. Like, oh, church. Sunday, church.
Okay. So your grandma's still going to church.
She reads her prayers every day. She talks to God every day.
So do you contextualize a lot of things in terms of God, or?
I think subconsciously I did, because that's how I grew up. But then I had like my own battles with God during like when I was like going through like troubling times. I'm like, oh, the world sucks. Like that means if God made the world, then like God sucks. And like, well, there's cancer in the world. There's no way there could be a God, right? If there's bad things, why would God allow bad things? That's like the mindset I had. So I was atheist for a bit. I was like, oh, there's no God, whatever. And then I watched some random documentary about like they took a test where like when people believed in God, they felt better about themselves and they just did better. So I was like, he doesn't have to be real, but if you believe in it, you can be a better person, or like you're just more good to yourself and others.
What ages were your atheism phase?
Middle school.
Okay.
Middle school, and then like I guess I found God again in high school.
Was the documentary, was it a Blue Zone doc? Is that what they were talking about?
I have no clue.
Because I know one of the things, do you know blue zones?
What's that?
They're like areas of the world where people live really long, and then they started to look at what those people do differently.
Okay.
And one of the things they found was they tend to be faith-based. Or I think they were all religious.
Yeah. That's when like faith is, I think that's good. That's like faith and belief is like a good thing for human beings.
One of the things that I always think, it's like when you study something, you have to ask the right questions, because for so long people would look at Christians and they'd say, well, does prayer work? And they'd be like, okay, get a bunch of people to pray and then see if the thing changed, and it wouldn't. But those other studies that just said, looked at people who pray regularly and are they happy, or people who have a faith or faith community, are they happier? And it's like, yeah, they are. So,
but that's why like I watched the Huberman podcast, and he talks about meditation, and it's like meditation is like it's like praying, but the way we contextualize it, it's like, no, there's no way you're praying. You're just like coming to peace with yourself. That's what praying is. Or like asking for good things in your life. Like, yeah, that's just meditate.
Yeah.
To me, it's like it's one and the same.
There's that quote that says, if the only prayer you say is thank you, that will be enough.
Yeah.
And so if you do like because I think the first thing I ever did that would have been equivalent to meditation or prayer was in high school. I started doing a gratitude journal.
Yes.
Which is like,
it's so like, oh my God, yeah. But I think that it truly is good for you.
Yeah. And it is like it's a practice every day that actually changes the way you think about things. And a lot of the problems you have, like, you don't know how to solve it. So you have to some extent know how to endure. And gratitude is a big...
It helps you have faith.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no answer to everything. We have to be okay with the unknown. So faith helps you be okay with the unknown.
What's the podcast you mentioned?
The Huberman Lab podcast.
Huberman Lab podcast. Yeah. And he's like a neuroscientist.
He's a neuroscientist at Stanford University.
Nice. And he just talks... Is it always religion?
He gets other like scientists or other professors to come on what they're studying.
Okay.
So like they have like a sleep professor on there who like studies sleep, and that's like how to like know your sleep cycle, all that stuff, like vitamins, exercise. It's like anything, emotions, family, just like life as a human being through the lens of science.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's one of my favorite podcasts.
I like it. What are there any other podcasts or anything you're really obsessed with right now?
That and like Neil Brennan's Blocks podcast. It has a lot of comedians or like other artists and like what their blocks are in their career, like what they think about if they're also overthinkers, if they're like very like procrastinators, they're like relationship problems, how that affects them, stuff like that. Just like hearing celebrities like problems, like, oh, you're a human being, you know?
I like Neil Brennan a lot. So blocks is like blocks that you have to do so. Okay.
Have you seen his special called Blocks? And like he talks about, that's the whole podcast is based on the special. Nice.
And then he comes out of the Chappelle Show, right?
He is a co-creator of it.
And that's another one of your obsessions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like him with like the fact that he like, I think he's a great writer and director. So like, and him and Dave working together just like made like a huge cultural shift. So I value his vision and his direction of comedy. I'm just like, I think how you work is good. It's clearly very effective. So I want to like listen to you, how you think, and see how I can apply that.
Nice. And that's a Blocks podcast.
Yes, the Blocks podcast. Any like other ones? I'm just all over the place with like podcasts. I like Random Order. Just plug all the things I like. I like Random Order podcast. They're like a comedy group from Brampton. So like they're very like hometown. And they moved to Toronto. They blew up. Shout out to the T-Dot Goonscrap DVD. Like they're very like culture based. It's like if you know that scene, like it just hits well. If you know like what they're talking about, the culture, it just hits to a T. But the podcast is them just being funny, just running their own jokes. And if you get it, if you're on that same sense of humor, then you'll love it.
Is Random Order their improv or sketch?
They do like sketch comedy.
Mm-hmm.
But like there's no sketch comedy they don't talk about. They talk about their regular lives and like just have conversations, and they're just naturally funny.
Do you have any background in sketch or improv?
I didn't take any classes. I've done like improv like trials. At Second City, like they have like drop-ins. I've done that a couple times. Have done sketch, but I did like plays in high school. I was in like the Sears Festival, whatever. I did it once. It was really fun. So I did it the next year, and I got the lead.
What was the lead?
I was supposed to be like an angry cop. But here's why. The first play we did was like the plays we did, the stories were so convoluted. So basically, it's like a writer is at a party and he's drinking too much, and then he gets to a car. He brings a girl home with him, and they get to a car accident. So now he's in like limbo, like kind of like dying.
Yeah.
But the girl's there too, and she's like trying to make him like remember what happened. So like those were the two mains, and he's like writing stories, and me, my friend, and the two other people were like portraying those stories like little skits throughout the play. Like it's just random like with like a mob scene, like a love scene, just like random stuff like that. And I don't remember what the story was or how it ends, but it was just fun to like just like be different characters.
Yeah, but they tied it together with the bigger.
Yeah, at the end it's like this is all a story of like the writer's like he got too caught up in fame and was like too much of an asshole and like too into himself ego, like he caused like he ended up killing this next girl and himself. Like, you have to like repent for that, stuff like that.
But it's written by kids at your school?
It's written by like, I think it was a graduate of my school.
Okay.
So like, and the next play is like about a detective and a serial killer, and like the serial killer's back. And someone like there's like a mimic guy. I'm just like,
you need better writers.
Like, I think it's good writing, but like it's too convoluted. Like simplify it so like people can get it, and I like have to watch a YouTube explained about this play. And like I was more so leaning to be like a comedic actor. Mm-hmm. So then this guy was not funny. He was like virtually very mean. I had to like I would have to actually act. So I think that's why like I just dropped out. I was like, me and my friend, I feel bad about it because I told my friends, I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be so fun. I got like people into the thing to audition. They were on the show, and then I just left. I was like, I quit. You guys got it.
Did you like acting in general, or do you like it?
It's fun, but like I had to like come to my terms with my own emotions about like what I'm okay with expressing. So I guess like I think internally I did not like to be a mad character. I wasn't okay with my anger in general and myself. So I was like, I don't want to touch that, and I just quit.
You weren't okay with anger?
Mm-hmm.
It's not everyone's.
Yeah. I feel like it's a very negative emotion. How I see it's very negative. So I don't want to like portray it or like just tap into any of that.
See, I find with acting, it's hard for me to portray a lot of emotions just because I think I'm like in my head a lot. So I don't know how to be in touch with the emotion enough to portray it. Mm-hmm. But I can do anger. I found sadness was the hardest one.
Oh, I can do sadness easily. I think I think I can do like a range of emotions, but I'm just not comfortable with expressing anger.
Yeah. So you know how, you just don't.
I see people how like we portray things. I'm like, oh, I guess he's angry. I guess he's sad, but I can just like pretend to do that. But anger is like too like visceral, too real for me.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to like method act into anger.
No.
Do you think method acting is necessary? That you need to feel the emotion?
I think for me, like I think it helps, but like when actors are just like, yeah, I spend the whole day in character. I'm like, no, you don't have to do that. Like, this is a job, 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Maybe it helps you immerse, like maybe, but I just don't think it's necessary.
I also think there's something probably like when you're finding it for the first time, I could see doing exercises on your own or with the other actors to get there. That might be very like trying to imagine that feeling and really get it. But once you sort of like know where it is, I feel like maybe you don't have to like go there. Especially like what if you were doing theater? Like
you should be studying emotions and what. How do you not know how to turn it off or turn it on?
Yeah, it'd be weird to go on stage every night and fully go like become, I don't know, the Phantom of the Opera every night. That's just too much.
Yeah, quite literally too much. How do you know yourself at that point? You're just being other people. But I guess like I think that's why maybe some actors are very good because like they don't want to be themselves and they're very good at like portraying other things.
Did you hear that thing with I think it's Austin Butler where he picked up an accent by accident? He was playing Elvis. So I think he spent 6 months filming and he left with a different way of talking because he was in Elvis's voice so much.
But I believe in that stuff. That's why I'm like, method acting is like, that's where I think it goes too far. Like, it can, like, you can bring that home to like, get out of here. Like, no, we shouldn't be doing that.
I think people thought he was maybe making that up, but I got it. He's a younger person. So think about if you're a teenager who just is posturing in like the 9th grade, but then over time, what you were faking being you actually are, because you acted that way for years.
Yeah. It's like, to me, I see it as like, with like UK actors having an American accent, like, I could not tell when like they're acting like, you sound like me, but like they go back to an interview, I'm like, is this accent fake? Like, where's this coming? I don't know how they do that. So to me, I would love to like, and acting wise, I'd love to learn accents and be able to like throw my voice and stuff like that. That would be so dope.
Yes. And I watch sometimes those YouTube videos where someone will show you how they do the different accents. So it's one guy talking and he's going into a bunch of different voices.
It's stuff like that amazes me.
Yeah.
I have friends like Denzel is actually a pretty good mimic. Like he can do really good impressions. Like just like knowing someone, like he got their voice down and cadence down. It's to me, it's a talent.
Very enviable.
Yeah, it's such a dope talent.
But do you feel like there aren't really a lot of impersonator comics anymore?
I think that we've seen too many good ones. Like Jay Farrow, Jamie Foxx, impressionists. I feel like Jay Farrow, like he does like his impressions are insane. Do you know who he is? I think he was on SNL for a bit.
Okay.
But like you look him up, he's like incredible impressionist. Like he does like Will Smith, Eddie Murphy, and anybody else, like he becomes that person. It's scary.
So is that the bar is so high that no one wants to go into it professionally unless
you have to be like top notch, or else it's like hack. We've seen this.
Yeah.
I think nowadays it's so hard to be like to showcase talent, because like people are pretty good at things. Like the bar of like skill is keep getting higher and higher and higher.
Yeah. There's so many internet videos of like just little kids being spectacular and stuff.
It's insane. It's quite insane. But that's how like I think all the stars are like that though. Like Tiger Woods, like he was like golfing as a baby. Like Justin Bieber was like playing the drums and singing at like 10 or like 2 or 5 or something like that. So it's like now we have a camera, we can just look at him do this, and like, oh yeah, people are just dope randomly. Yeah. The one that blew me away, I saw this video of Zendaya and her who's the Spider-Man? Tom Holland.
Yeah. And he's an amazing dancer, which I already knew she knew how to dance. But then when I found out I found out he used to be Billy Elliot on Broadway.
I don't know.
So he's like one of, he's a huge actor, but he's also like a fully trained ballet dancer. Oh. And like Broadway singer, performer, everything.
Wow, but I feel like a lot of actors are like that. Like Hugh Jackman, Wolverine. He's like a big, he's a big Broadway guy. You see someone in these superhero movies, so you just think they're like an actor they got, and we're like, hey, do you want to be Wolverine? Mm-hmm. But he was like a proper thespian for years. Stuff like that blows my mind, but like it low-key makes sense that he's Spider-Man. Like he's a ballet guy, of course. Now he's like doing flips and stuff in a movie and acting. Like the stars aligned for him.
Yeah, you probably don't want to grab some like kid off the couch playing video games and be like, you're Spider-Man now.
Even though that kid wants to be Spider-Man, he could not do a backflip. He was
practicing the wrong skills.
Mm-hmm. Do your flips more, kid. Get out there.
So, but are you a video game guy?
Big video game guy. That's like, I remember getting my first Game Boy Color and it like changed my life. It's a handheld device.
I had a Game Boy, so I guess...
Game Boy Advance? Like, I know all of it.
We just had Game Boy, and then I don't know what happened after that, but I guess they got it in color.
I had, like, a hand-me-down from, like, one of my grandmas. She worked at a hospital, and I guess, like, their son got too old for it, and they just gave it to me, and I was like, oh, and now I have a goal in life.
Amazing. Game Boy. Mm-hmm. What games... to this day do you still love?
Pokemon. That's like one of my first games. I played like Super Mario on the Game Boy Color, and then I got the Game Boy Advanced, and then I played Pokemon.
Okay, so I know this is really ignorant. Is that where Pokemon started as a video game?
Yes.
And then they made the cards.
Yes.
Which is what I thought
You thought it was cards then video game?
I didn't know there. I didn't never.
You know about the TV show?
I just thought it was like cards and a TV show.
Wow, you had no like. You thought it was no game?
Now it sounds really dumb, but I wouldn't
say it's dumb. Uninformed. Because like the show and the cards all was stemmed. That's all advertisement for the game.
Okay, so they did not effectively advertise to me. I feel like the Nintendo Corporation is not getting the 40-something women.
No, they know their clientele. I think you guys like Mario Kart. I think who doesn't like? Everyone likes Mario Kart.
Mario Kart is fun. That is one of the games. If I was to say, I was at a house party or something, and we might play a game, that would be it. That's
the essential like house party game. That's why I love Nintendo. It's just very like much so like get people around to play together. I don't like solo games. Like Pokemon's a solo game, but I liked video games of the fact that I can play with people. I like board games growing up. I just wanted to enjoy playing games with people.
Yeah, so it's part of a hang.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I don't really play games much now by myself, like unless I really like the story. But more so, I would like go hang out with Steve at his old place, and we play Smash Bros. Like all night, just like.
Is Steve a comic?
Steve Appleyard.
Oh yeah.
So like I would go to his place.
That guy's hilarious.
Awesome guy, big friend. So we just like play Mario Kart together or like play Smash Bros.
Nice.
So video game to me is like very community based. It's like, oh, you like a game? I like a game. Now we can be friends. That's how like I was making friends earlier on.
I'm trying to think, how was I making friends? I'm not as much of a get together to like play a game or do a thing. Yeah.
So what do you get together to do? Like watch movies?
Yeah. That's actually, I guess, probably a big part of my friendships is around like movies and music and books.
Okay, yeah. I was not a book kid. I hated books growing up. I would like read the comic books. I was like, oh, you read novels, nerd, like like dork. And now I have tons of books now.
What types of stuff do you like to read now?
Nonfiction. I don't like if I want to read a story, I'd rather watch a movie.
Yeah.
Because like with Hunger Games, I watched a movie then I read the book.
Which is sometimes not good, but I did that with Game of Thrones, and it was so worth it.
I think that's probably a great thing to do with Game of Thrones. Like watch the show, then read the books. That must be phenomenal.
Yeah. It's like you already love it, and then it's just like, let's go really deeply into this thing that you love. And then it has all these more layers. And I want to say people make fun of George R.R. Martin for writing so much, but he phones none of it in.
Oh, yeah.
Like every chapter, you're like, this guy loves what he's writing about. And he's having so much fun with, it's like the Dothraki. And then he's like, no, I'm going to go over here to the King's Road. But he's not, you don't feel like, oh, he liked this, but he had to do this. Like he likes every part of it. And he's never not doing it like 100%.
That's dope to like realize that. I can't get immersed in books, man. I don't understand like what's like to be like reading like Harry Potter, like getting immersed in a book. I can't like fall into a book like that.
Maybe you're reading the wrong genre.
I like one books I fall into, or I listen to books mostly, but like Malcolm Gladwell, like his books, like Outliers, Talking to Strangers. I like when people like talk about stuff in the real world.
Yeah.
If it's fantasy, I want to watch that. I can't like go into this world in my head. I see I don't care for the characters when I'm reading them.
Yeah. I don't know. I want to say I get it. Like I had a huge Gladwell phase, and just I like to know more about my actual life in the real world. But fiction reading is its own thing. And it is, I don't even know how to say, yeah, it's like going to a different world. Like you can watch it in a movie, but there's no immersion. Like
to me, I go into a movie. Like I'm like, if I like a movie, I'm like, I'm there. I'm in it.
Okay, so maybe it's also people who are visually triggered versus, because I think like words are very important to me. And very,
I see words.
Me a lot.
I see words. I'm like, I need I can like feel that, but like the image really like helps me understand like the imagery helps me understand the words more. I think they're complementary. I can't just have words and I'm like, oh yeah, I feel something.
Did you ever read comics?
I loved comics. Like I like graphic novel. Like graphic novels was my shit.
Okay.
Like the Bone series is an amazing series.
What is the Bone series?
So it's like I would say it's like a fantasy about like these three bones. It's like a creature called the Bones, right? Like Phony Bone, Phone Bone, and Smiley Bone. Like three different characters. Like Phony Bone's like very like business savvy scammer, just wants all the money. Phone Bone's like the very like logical, like I have to keep everyone together. And Smiley's just like a goofball, just like they're the comic relief. And so they get kicked out of their town because Phony was scamming, and then they get into this fucking fantasy world where it's like there's like dragons and different tribes and like tailed beasts, and there's like a spiritual thing. It's a whole convoluted story, but like it's great. I can't describe it.
What's the what does it look like? Is it detailed? Is it black
It's very
and white?
detailed, very detailed and in color. Like it's like one of the books is like the books are like 130 pages, like a graphic novel, and it's like there's a lot of jokes to it, like visual humor and like literal like with the wordplay and stuff like that humor. So I'm very attracted to like humor. I like wordplay and I like jokes, like jokes, like dad jokes and stuff like that. So if you can do that, like if you give me like jokes, like words, I understand jokes and that like resonates with me. Not like poetry or like the wind blew and like the rain falls. I'm like I get it, but like I'd rather see a joke.
Yeah. So yeah, it's such a personal thing because I'm almost the opposite where I can find like sometimes I want to like a comic book because I see it and it's or a graphic novel that's just tremendously beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
but the format doesn't work for me. Like I don't like following images. I like following words. It's hard for me to explain. It's like the only time I like watching sports is during the Olympics because they're heavily narrated and they're explaining how the sport works and oftentimes giving like a backstory. Whereas like if you're just watching like Sunday football, people expect you to know the game and it's visual and I'm like, I can't pay attention to this.
I think you would like anime. Yes, if you can get over like this, because like, I think the storytelling in anime is peak. It's if you like a good story and like how they portray stories, like writing, it's really good. And they give into like backstories and like the emotional depth behind certain things and like stuff like that. Like it's very like there's a trope in anime where like they describe everything. It's just like, oh, I did this because like they give you explanation for like basically everything. People are like, yo, show it to me. I'm like, no, I like to see them. Like, why did you do this? So it's very descriptive.
Okay, so what are your anime recommends?
My first one, if you don't like anime or anything like that, I would always start watching Death Note.
Death Note.
Death Note.
Okay.
So the
never
basic
even heard of that.
Basic premise is a random guy. He's like a prospect to be a lawyer. His dad's a lawyer. His dad's like a cop, and he wants to be a very law-abiding citizen. And then he finds this book called the Death Note. And the first page, it gives you a bunch of rules where, like, if you write someone's full name in this book, they die.
Okay, that's an intense rule.
And it's like, and then if you give the reason, or if you give if you explain how they die, it would actually happen. But the thing is, if you just write their name in and put it down, they just die of a heart attack. So so this guy is like, oh, I'm gonna cleanse the world of all bad people.
Oh shit.
That's
a bad guy.
But he thinks he's like a savior.
I love it.
Watch the show. Is
it a series?
It's like 30 episodes.
Amazing.
So it's like just an intro to anime and how that medium can be portrayed.
Okay. Is there more top anime that I should know about? Like, I thought it was just Sailor Moon. What's the other? There's like, there in anything, there's like 4 or 5 things that everyone's heard of, even if you don't know the thing.
I feel like Sailor Moon's very old school. Like Dragon Ball Z, do you know about that one? I feel like you're not gonna watch it.
I thought that was a video game.
What else is there? I don't know. Like, do you know Cowboy Bebop? No.
It sounds like a kid's show.
It's an anime about like space cowboys, basically.
Is it for grown-ups?
Yeah, it's very mature topics. The thing is, like, we assume like anime is like cartoon childish, but like the quality of stories and like what they portray can be extremely mature.
Okay.
And that's what I like about it. It's like it's like fantasy, but like they're covering real world topics and like that we can't like express visually, like with like people. It's too like dark, but like they go about it with like characters and like it's fantasy, so it's not real.
I like how just far away from reality anime is willing to get.
Yeah.
Like they're not like, oh, I need to make this realistic for the audience.
For me, it's like escapism. That's why I go. If I'm like watching a lot of anime, I'm like, oh, I'm trying to escape. If I'm like a big binge, I'm like, I just need to be in a different world right now. So that's why I really like it. That's why I read like manga. That's like basically like anime is the animated version of mangas. So like they're like books.
So manga was around before anime.
Yeah.
And then anime is just.
Anime is like the adaptation of mangas into like TV shows. So like they just use like the same writing or whatever, but they use like, you know, director liberties and like how they portray the story. There's like certain ways like that. But basically like the script's already been laid out for them. It's like a book becoming a movie.
Sometimes when I'm at the bookstore, I see the manga section, and it's like this overwhelming feeling because I'm like, there's so much of it and I don't know anything about it, and then you just realize like how much stuff there is that people are into that like it would take you your whole life to like get to know it.
But I grew up with it, so I know what I like. But there's
You're
also I'm very immersed in it, so I know how weird it can get and how like off-putting it can get for people. That's why I'm just like, yeah, you have to like put your toe in the water before you just jump in.
So do most of your friends like anime?
Yeah, we have like my core group of friends. Yeah, we all like anime.
So if someone doesn't like anime, are you just like, this guy?
I don't know. I'm like, they're missing out. I want to put you guys onto anime. I want you guys to like anime. I think it's very dope, but people don't like it.
Okay. So but I'm going to start with Death Note.
Yes. Are you into like gore?
No.
Okay.
I like horror stuff, but when I'm in the horror genre, it's never for gore. It's usually I like mysteries and I like suspense.
Okay. I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying these like gore shows, but like one of my favorite of all time is Attack on Titan, and it's very dark, very like graphic, and like with like death and all that stuff. But like the story is, it's like, to me, it's like Game of Thrones of anime.
Okay, so that's the thing. It's like I love Game of Thrones. I'm not in it for the gore, the violence, but I think because I like things that are very dramatic, then I like that.
Attack on Titan, like the thing with that show is like it came out in like 2014 with one season, and then went dark for like 4 years, and that made me start reading mangas because I would like that show so much. I want to know what was happening in that world.
Okay, so it's a show. It's called Attack on Titan,
and it's fully completed. It has 4 seasons.
Is Titan, I guess, a planet? No,
Titans are like the things. So the main premise is it starts off like the main character is a boy in this world. In this world, there's like it's supposed to be on Earth or whatever, but his continent is surrounded by walls, like a 100-meter wall, and they can't get outside of the wall because there are Titans that are like just like 10-meter people that just eat people.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So like his grievance is like he wants to be free, but like he's in a cage. So he wants to, like, the scouts are like the people who like go outside the gate and fight the Titans to like understand what's going on, but they don't know what the hell's going on. And so the story is him finding out what these Titans are, what the rest of the world is like. They don't know about oceans, they don't know about sand, like they just don't know anything. So the whole thing is him finding out about the world.
I love that in a story when there's perspective changes, and like huge revelations.
The story is phenomenal.
So it's a show. There's this like how long did it go on for a long time? It was dark, and that's when you started reading manga, and then it come back.
Yeah, it came back recently, 2018. So now it finished last year.
So did they? Because sometimes when something comes back, they don't.
It came back harder because like the story was just like there was a fall off, but like the second season, like the story was just that good where it's like, yeah, we have to keep playing this. It got better and better and better.
Amazing. So it's worth it to get it and go all the way through.
Yeah, I read it. Like the manga finished before like the actual show was adapted. So I read the full ending and everything. But like now I still haven't watched it because like if I watch it, it's just gonna be really over. I'm like holding on to it. I can't like watch the finished product yet.
So you haven't seen the ending?
No, I know the ending
Because you watched.
I read it already.
Oh, okay.
But I just haven't like sat down like watched how they did it. Because like if I do that, it's like now it's officially over.
That's hilarious. One of my friends told me in confidence, so I can't tell anyone who this is, that she like saves a present at Christmas because she doesn't want to open the last present because it'll be over. So you open it later.
I understand that feeling. It's the same feeling.
Hidden. Yeah. That's amazing though.
Mm.
Is it better than Game of Thrones? Well, I guess it's one of your favorite properties, right?
I think it ends better than Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones is a weird thing to try to introduce to people because you have to be like, it's the most amazing thing ever, but it ends badly.
Yeah. And for me, like getting into, it took me a while to get like into Game of Thrones. Like, the first episode was like I fell asleep like 4 or 5 times watching it.
My friend really wanted me to watch it, and I was like, I don't know, I'm not really into violence, and I think I started it a couple times, and then I also have trouble with when there's a lot of characters, and so I had to write down people's names. So I would and be like, okay, so these guys are doing this, and then it was.
Who are some of your favorite characters? Who's like your favorite character in Game of Thrones?
Oh my God, because it moved around. Like it started out, I was obsessed with Daenerys. Then I think my last obsession and maybe my all-time favorite is Arya Stark.
Arya?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then, but then I've had like sideways, like intermediate obsessions with a lot of other characters.
Me, I love Tyrion. He's one of my favorite characters in that show. I like Tyrion. I hate Cersei. I think she's a great character. Cersei. I hate Cersei.
I like her and her romance with her brother.
Oh my God. And her kids, like, the obsession.
Shitty kids. One of my all-time favorite moments in Game of Thrones is Sansa and the spider, Viserys. You know, like the whisper, the guy who's got all the secrets.
Yeah.
They're in like a courtyard in King's Landing, and they're talking about Joffrey, and you know he's like plaguing them, and they're trying to like plan her escape because he's this mortal threat to her. And the scene ends, and then the camera like pans, and you just see like this statue of Joffrey, and he's like got his arms out. He's just like so poncy.
Yeah. That show is just so good. Like, so good all around.
Yeah.
What was your favorite season? You have a favorite season? I think it's such a taper down, like season 6 and 7 and then 8. Like, it goes downhill a bit.
Like, I kind of think about it not so much in terms of seasons, but like the things that live in my head a lot are like Daenerys when she's with the Dothraki, and then it's kind of weird too because I read the book, so I don't know now what comes from the books and what comes from the movies. Arya's training, and like any time on the King's Road, which is like Arya's on there a lot, but so are other people. But I just really liked that the King's, like between King's Landing and Winterfell. I
haven't watched that show in a while. I'm very like loosely. I'm like King's Road. I don't know what's going on there.
You know how like she's like Arya's walking for a long time with like her buddies, and they're just
with Hodor and
they're like on the King's Road.
Okay, so like I like Arya's storyline as well. Like her development as a character was insane, and how like she's the one that killed like the White Knight, the Winter Knight. What's the guy's like the
Night King?
Night King, yeah.
You weren't like one of these people who was like, "Oh, it couldn't have been Arya."
No, I don't. I don't understand stuff like that. What, a girl can't kill the White Knight? The Night King was a girl, really? No, I'm very I'm not a feminist, but I'm like, I think women are people, like human beings. Like,
you're very much not a mouth breather.
Yeah.
Okay. I really want to thank you for being on Karen Mitch's podcast.
It's been really fun.
So your podcast is Dark Matter.
Yeah, the Dark Matter podcast. We air every Wednesday. That's when like our episodes drop on YouTube, Spotify. You can catch us on Instagram, TikTok, Dark Matter Podcast. And I have a show. When is this coming out?
This will come out Monday the 20th.
Okay, so I have a show. If you're in Toronto, I have a show on Saturday at the Colors Barbershop called Fresh Lineup. You can check me out there. Come up to the show. It'll be a great, fun time. I'll do stand-up. You can see me do jokes.
So the show is the Fresh Lineup.
Yeah.
And it's at Colors
Barbershop on Queen Street West.
And that's Saturday.
The 25th? Yes, the 25th.
Okay. Nice. Thanks a lot, Justin Bishop. It's been good to have you.